Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Shall we bring everyone up to speed on what we've just been discussing?
No.
No, you have to be live in the room for that kind of content.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. I mean, we have to reference it now. Yeah, live in the room, we were talking about some fun stuff. Right, good. So, Q&A. Q&A. Now, I don't want to make this too formal. I'm very happy with just answering questions as they come up. I have a couple of questions for the cast I'm going to start with, and then we have a couple of questions from Twitter, from our patrons, I'm going to go through as well. And then if there's any from the audience, we'll do that towards the end of that, if that's okay. And when you ask a question from the audience, I'll have to speak it out loud into a microphone. So we'll be doing that, just so we're all aware. I'm not going to be parroting your questions like in a weird way. It's just how this is going to work. Lovely. I'm going to start with a question for the cast, everyone at this table, and I have an answer from David, which I'll read out while they think about their answers. What were your inspirations for making your character? In David's case, I won't do his voice. No. What he says is, and this is very sweet, I went back and looked over our conversations of character building to see if it appeared organically out of conversation, but my opening salvo was literally black magic powered clockwork robot with the soul of an orphan child. It's only later in the conversation that I realise I'm making a bit of an Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist. So I don't know, Copper probably came from me latching onto certain words from the world-building document like clockwork and family, as well as bringing in energy that I thought would complement the other players. Then I did a silly voice.
The best silly voice.
The other cultists in there were down to Chris having a backstory ready to fit in and me having a brain fart at some point that I didn't want the girl to be the only one in there. The reason there's 29 is that it's Copper's atomic number.
That's real good. What a.
Everything else about Amber Green came out in play. Would anyone else like to jump in with an answer to that question? Character inspiration?
You've got the most.
I mean, I have two. So
yeah, please go ahead.
So Waywalker is a character that I've actually played before. I know, cheating a little bit. After she died, I tweeted about her having many iterations. I'm sure I'll find her again. I do just keep coming back to her. I really enjoy the idea of characters who are morally misaligned, but still fundamentally not good people. Just try it. No, I don't. You know what I mean. So that was what Waywalker was, and someone who was just a lot of fun to play and a sort of good faith double agent. And the original Waywalker came out the fact that I rolled really, really appalling stats for a character, and I had to create a character who was completely useless apart from 15 wisdom and 10 in everything else. So that was Waywalker, and then Promethean came out of a conversation of me being she is, she worships a bad guy, and Waywalker's lifelong dream, if she'd ever achieved, was to become a lich. That's true for all Waywalkers.
I'm so sad that she died.
That's true for all Waywalkers in existence. In all my campaigns, the lifelong goal of all Waywalkers cumulatively is to become a lich. Rope was very much born out of really enjoying the character arc that Roy had been on sort of being hang on, this hellish shit is kind of bullshit though, isn't it? And creating a character who was sort of the same trajectory as that while working from completely opposite angle, which is very much within the bounds of the law and being lawful good.
Yeah. I find it particularly interesting because you mentioned it there, and it's obviously come up in the campaign quite a bit, this idea of characters that are cyclical, that appear in different versions in different games in different places, because there is a strange D&D commonality that there is not only a certain kind of character potential players like to play, but also if someone really loves playing a character or an idea or a concept, they do come back to it. Sometimes 5 years later, sometimes 10 years later, sometimes in the next game they play. And I don't have a problem with that, I quite like it. I like the idea that there's a multiverse out there that is every single game, every single person in a sort of wide group of friends, or maybe even in D&D as a whole, all playing together, and that there are these concepts that a person has created that just live in different points throughout. So I particularly like Cogwin's ending for that, this idea that all these iterations of Cogwin now exist in your home games and wherever you want them to. I like that a lot.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Pretty simple.
I have to ask you this because you and I was looking through the old conversation we had about this in answer to this question. You didn't turn to me and say, I want to play Iron Man.
No.
I have too much shame.
No, but you did have this sort of quite. Here's the sort of thing I want, but it doesn't exist in D&D style thought process already from the off.
I mean, joking aside, yeah, I mean, obviously Iron Man is the inspiration for the aesthetic, the style of having a wizard in D&D who is mechanical and instead has a flying suit of armor. But actually, I think it was partly born. I think I said this to you at the time.
You did.
Coggan was born out of a desire to make. It was my first character I was going to be making specifically for ongoing performance. So I wanted to create somebody who was who could do cool stuff, like fly around and make explosions, and therefore cast D&D spells in a way you aren't necessarily used to seeing them. So if you're a big D&D person, you're like, oh, he's doing fireball, but it looks like that this time. I get, So there's a bit of originality there. But then partly twinned with the desire not to just be playing Iron Man completely, that'd be lame. I made obviously Cogwyn a bit of a social idiot, which then of course creates comedy. So you have somebody who can do cool combat stuff and can be dumb and go and sort of create funny moments, but also because he's very low charisma. His charisma is 11. His worst stat is dexterity, which is 7. Good thing he's encased in brass. But the idea of him not being very talkative sometimes was actually a tactical choice in building the character so that he could just give space to other people when necessary. Because if you create somebody who's a really high energy, talking all the time, would be dominating any social situation character, that can be okay in a home game if you need a face for a party. But if you're aware you're playing with other fantastic role players, you actually want to have justifiable excuses for your character just going quiet for a while, but still be like actively maybe scribbling away or working on something, tinkering. So he actually weirdly came about from two very out of world choices, and I was like, oh, Iron Man's cooler than me, and then off we went. I mean, that's a homebrew I had so much fun making. That was one of those lovely. Playing with the School of the Cogwheel, it is fun.
It's called the Cogwheel, isn't it? Yeah, that's it.
School of the Cogwheel, it's really fun.
Because I'd looked through a bunch of, because I didn't want to, I find when I'm homebrewing anything, especially for something in live, we can't just take someone else's stuff and present it as our own, because that's just even though copyright's also a thing, it's also just a no-no, I don't like the concept. Yeah. But going, well, how would a D&D techno wizard work? And playing with ideas around, like the idea you have this constructed army, and the idea, I purposely didn't go, well, what does Iron Man have? I tried to go a bit more like, okay, what can we look at in a D&D context?
No. Yeah, and that was really good. That was the thing I had the most fun with, as I think became clear with the dinosaur obsession. That was really fun because again, I could do it unashamedly because it's not an Iron Man thing. It's just let's have loads of dinosaurs. It's dinosaurs.
I know we had a couple in the campaign.
Well, they're the coolest things of sufficiently low CR that you can build.
It's true. That's the thing. Thank you.
All right.
Do you want to keep going in, or do you want to jump around?
Sure. I'm glad that you didn't ask us this in advance, because if I tried to look back over the amount of messages we sent each other about Char over the last year and a half, I would probably have been there for a day. I think, so I came in probably as the newbie to the group when I joined the cast of Omen. Like, I was the person who didn't know anybody else very well. So I chose specifically a class that I know extremely well, which is rogues. So I was like, well, I'm going to play a rogue because I know how to play them. I know them backwards and I can just do it. And I chose Asimar because I thought that'd be interesting. And I think what I said to you at the time was that I want to play an Asimar who doesn't know who her god is.
That is exactly what you said, and where almost all of this came out of.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. Like, everything else came from conversations we've had over the campaign, or from decisions that were made at the table, or from building on the go. I didn't have a long character concept. That's not really how I work in any campaign. And like I said, we've had many, many conversations over the campaign about ongoing development. So it's not like I made a character concept and we stuck with it. We've talked about it a lot over the course of the campaign. But I remember coming to the table at the first game and everyone else was describing the characters as they're going like, oh my God, everyone else has made these really wacky, amazing D&D characters, and I have made a swashbuckler rogue. Great.
With a flaming sword.
That was Chris.
Oh. You still had a flaming sword. That's cool.
But that's also a very good point about character creation. I mean, speaking as a player as well as a DM, there's a lovely. I personally really like the same thing of going concept. I have a concept, I have an idea, and I want to play that idea. But then going to the DM and going concept, and the DM going concept, and then going how about this, how about this, how about this, and just throwing pieces in, and you're developing together. I really like that process. There's a question about it in a second, which I'll come to and talk about more. But yeah, thank you. It's lovely. We can go to Ed next if you want. You to give me a face.
Oh no, it just I suppose it was a slightly different experience. I suppose the closest to with rope, because I came into a space that existed. You sort of came to me with potentially a sort of a Kithfair started as a potentially a guest spot sort of thing. So I was like, oh yes, here is something that I will come in for one session, and fulfill this role in the group. So it was. We need a character who will be a member of this race called the Gerrit, who could be like this, could be like this, could be like this, who will guide the Viridescent Order through the dream. So I started from that, and started, I think you said, a bat-like person, someone with wings of some sort, but it could be anything you want. And I was like, birds are cool, lizards are cool, birds are cool, lizards are cool, birds are cool. Archaeopteryx. Yes. And just sort of went from there. It was quite a different thing because I was building a character to fit a purpose, but similar to you, I didn't come with a huge concept. I had the idea of this slightly reticent booky, indoorsy kind of person who was meant to be a navigator for their tribe, but wasn't quite ready to do it. But most of what Kithfair became actually came from play. I think because we had the experience where the first session was the nightmare, and they spent that time being absolutely terrified that Belmar and their entire tribe had been destroyed by the nightmare, and there was that overwhelming experience of fear. And then I think it was the next session was it the next session? I think it was the next session, which was the session where we encountered the cockerel. Waywocket died. Kithfair was literally frightened to death.
Yep, that is correct.
Wow.
Died, 3 death saving throws and out. And there was that experience, and then that experience, and then I can't remember what happened afterwards, but it was so defined by fear, so much had happened to them in that space where I was like, there's no way that this person has not come out of this experience unscathed. And that it was more what happened during play that shaped them very much in a way that I found quite interesting. But it was useful to be able to lean into that idea of what already existed, of them holding themselves back because of sort of things that they were worried about, and then having justification for that during play, which was, right, this is because of fear. There has been justification for that, and then having the chance through play, especially in the final battle and that, to overcome that and show a character which has then gone, right, here is this fear, I can work through that, I can keep allowing myself to move forward, and then being able to sort of round that off in this way.
I do like the thought. I know it's not always the case, but it is a nice one that a lot of character work happens in play. That you start off with a concept, and then the concept becomes, tempered, bounces off different ideas, and then it changes the personality of the character as it goes through.
Cogwin's initial forgetfulness, which, as I say, came from actually just a desire to create space for other players, became an integral part of him because it became clear he'd been manufactured by gods to be like a robot, and then he kind of realised, nice that you kind of turned a trait that I had into something that I could grab onto and be like, here's the reason for that, and it was always that way.
Did it on purpose.
Exactly.
That's 9/10 of DMing is pretending you always had it planned. I'm opening the door because I'm boiling, but
in my...
how light is it? Okay, you
Just
can open the door.
Just that much. It'll probably just be louder. I think it's easier.
Fine light-wise, I don't know how it's going to...
Sound. It's enough.
broke it.
You go.
Now only exit.
Sorry, Ed.
No problem. I had the same thing as Emma, which was because this was slightly more of a performance than D&D usually is.
Yeah.
I wanted something that I was familiar with, which was just a fighter,
Mm.
and like a lot of it was surface. I wanted a badass, and the idea of a 6'5" Black Panther was just really, really cool.
Wearing a trench coat with a gun.
That's what I mean.
You can't say half of it.
Exactly. Well, exactly. But
Cat with no name.
but this was what was interesting actually, because the reason I imagined him as sort of somebody who'd stumbled upon the French Foreign Legion, as in like he was just trying to forget everything. But always with somebody like that, they end up forgetting what it is that they were trying to forget, and then they're lost. Then they're lost going forward because they don't have where they came from, because that's what they were trying to get away from. But then they don't have anywhere to go forward to because they don't have. And it's the thing of just a stateless person, and particularly because this was an order that was supposed to be in between universes, it was kind of the perfect place for him, because he was already always a nomad, and that was the idea, because having been taken away from his tribe at an early age, and they having all been slaughtered, he was like, I don't have anyone else who's like me. And it's always a thing that I've had of I wouldn't wish genius on anybody, because if you're a genius, then no one can give you advice, because they're like, oh, I have no idea how you're working. You're much better at this than I could possibly be. So anyone, and this was always his thing, was no one could really give him advice. The only person who did was this idea that he'd been captured by the circus and taken in because he looked so beautiful, but because he didn't have anything to compare that to, he didn't know like what he had, if you see what I mean. And then so he therefore had to learn a craft, which was the trick shot thing, which there's character I came up with called Corey Lichtensteiger, who was this person in the circus who taught him everything that he knew before dying of hard living.
Yes.
And so his father figure essentially was someone who's like, I don't want to be like that. And that was why there was this idea that he was searching for something but he didn't know what, and it's only really right at the end when he found out that he could go back and have another chance, because he never did. Like, his whole life has just been, I just need to get through the next bit. And he's always had someone giving him orders, which is fine, because he didn't really know any other way. But then the concept of being able to suddenly have freedom and to actually do what you want to do, and to be given a whole nother chance, was a really... that's what I mean about, like, there was the episode that we did in your house when the first time that he interacted with this idea that...
Christmas one.
Yeah, the holes were being opened and actually stuff was being ripped apart, and he suddenly went, oh my god, I don't have to destroy things. And all of a sudden he became more than just like this, because he's basically just a sniper if you just look at him purely mechanically. And then that episode was when he suddenly realised he could be more than a sniper and actually try and heal stuff. And that was a really big change that he suddenly had. And then after that, it's like, I want to help, but also why... When the quandaries with Hellas and the thing came up, he's like, well, I definitely want to go away from destruction, but what is everybody talking about with this thing that creation can be bad as well? And that was why when it was amazing, actually, Vic, when you said that thing about, I hope you find whatever peace you're going to, and he suddenly went, oh my God, I've got a target. I've got to find peace.
Yeah.
How do I find peace? And then that was what led into the
gone out and
full
started
thing.
looking for peace.
Well, that's what he would have done before, but then all of a sudden now, and that's why he made the shrine and everything, was just literally because you said that. So thank you.
You listened to an angel and you became a guardian angel.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
It was a really good bit.
It was a fantastic bit.
thank you very much.
I'm going to lead in, because it came up as part of this, for a question from our patron, James. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
How much work from the GM's perspective happens to make the character feel like part of the world? Was there a lot of back and forth about the lore of the world, the pantheon of gods, etc. before character creation? Or did the players make their character stories and you build the world around them? Well...
I mean, I have a text message from you, Chris, where you just make up any gods you want. Who's on this council?
You didn't tell me who my god was until about October.
Yep. Well, you are tapping into a very important point. Yes, I had a game concept. Yes, I had a world concept. Yes, I had a story I wanted to find. And I will come on to that later, because it's very long-winded. But a DM is nothing without their players. Nothing. you're just a person sat in a room telling stories to yourself like a nutter. Whatever the players bring to you is ammunition. And that's ammunition either to play with everyone who's watching, or play with everyone who's playing, or play with other people. You have... What the players give you in every single case is an opportunity to either give that character what they want, or give them the option of giving them the opposite of what they want, or all the myriad things in between. You made a character that was scared, and I then scared the living hell out of them, and that was intentional. Ed made a character who was a soldier and a circus trick shotter who wanted things to find and things to shoot and things to deal with, and I gave you things you couldn't shoot.
Yeah,
like,
which was perfect.
You gave me a character and said, I don't know who their god is, and I went, well, I do now. It's yourself, and that's part of the joy of this. Like, finding...
I'll do me.
Oh, sorry, what was it?
I was really excited about that.
You said, I want to make Iron Man, and I went, okay, well, we've all seen the bloody movies. Iron Man recreates literally creation. Of course I'm going to play into that. That's a fantastic concept. Doesn't have to sacrifice himself, though, and also he didn't have to. That's a red herring, but yeah, I know. In the same vein, Waywalkish originally, when you said, I've made this god Promethean, it's really exciting, I know what I want to do with it, and I went, well, I now know more about Promethean than you do because that's my job, but also you filling in the idea of, I want to make someone who is tied to the big bad, and me going, the big bad has turned up in 4 live campaigns since we started doing it. Is it the same character? No. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And I like the idea that you're tapping into a lot of the tropes, ideas, concepts we've built into that, and I'm going, well, where does it fit with what I've already got, and where can I add in more stuff on top of that? And having, for example, I'd never conceived of a demigod of Promethean that was charming, whose whole deal was, how do I subtly corrupt when my deity is all about very unsubtle corruption? I'm playing with the idea of what that could be and how that figure would be represented.
It makes sense that a deity like Vitali would need someone like that. There are empires that would be easier to actually make fall by somebody who can play politics rather than just shows up and goes.
I mean, absolutely.
we've all seen Good Omens, right? Or
yeah,
read it.
exactly. Yeah.
Crowley.
Also, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But that's kind of the point. Having players who come to you and say, here's some stuff, is your golden opportunity to go, yep, and just fit it in everywhere else, and try and find ways to bring it out, and try and find moments where you can take something a player has done and go, this is now a core part of the story. This is now a core part of the game, and I find when I do that well, which isn't always, more than one example, it makes the campaign matter to the player. Because it's part of them and part of what they've done. And I think that's the most important thing a DM can do.
Well, also to other players, like if there are things in the story that matter to other players, like they automatically matter more to you because you care more about other players than about like random NPCs.
It's true. Definitely.
Sorry, could we put the aircon on? It is absolutely boiling.
Thank you. We don't know what we're doing.
No.
Playing it for over a year, but
I'm not that
I'm fine.
I am absolutely boiling.
I'm annoyingly in the middle.
Different lights, different heats, potentially. I don't know.
I am in the least light. I won't take it personally.
Let's move on to another question, and again I will read out David's answer first. What is your favourite moment from the campaign?
Oh, I know.
Thought my man on the train.
Tearing a guy in half like a Christmas cracker with a giant squid man whilst giggling with childish glee was one of those bizarre and wonderful moments when I discovered something about the character I didn't know, which was that Copper is completely desensitized to violence and gore. That and rolling consistently bad on stealth checks leading to Copper yelling stealth mode and clanking off into almost certain death. Any favourite moments? Just throw these out, please. Email them.
Oh, my one was, this was basically the only time I used it, which is really annoying, but you came up with this brilliant thing, which is the brand of Side.
Yep.
And I think it was, I'm not sure if it wasn't the first session that I played in, which is when we all started on the enormous
Mantis
thing. And I fell off the Mantis and was definitely going to die until I suddenly went, oh no, wait, I can use this. And so I suddenly turned into a shadow and then just went into the ground and came back up again and then was fine. And it was like, yes. that really, really worked. And it was literally because, again, it was that thing that players do when they just go, I'm just about to die. Is there anything I can... Yes, there is! And it was such a lovely moment to have that possibility.
I think the Mantis stands out for me in particular as one of those crazy concept ideas of, can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. We can... Oh god, this battle's taking 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it just being this insane moment of kaiju style combat. It was
Exactly,
mad.
but also it was brilliant because there was no point in the combat where anyone felt safe.
No.
And the fact that no one died from that, all of us just sort of sat back going, oh my god.
You
Touch
shattered
and go.
into the ground. You smashed into a building and...
I did. I crashed, but I was wearing armour, so it was more like an Iron Man crash.
I was only saved by speaker catching me.
You were set, and
Yes,
you were
that
set
was
by
and
the-
using
yeah.
slow
I
for.
had to shoot one of the legs to make it veer away from a village.
You did,
That was
that's
the
right.
goal.
I
Yeah.
think Speaker turned into a cupcake.
Speaker
Yeah.
got turned into a cupcake at one point because of mad random dice rolls based around the chaotic energy around it. I remember that. Yeah, it was madness.
That was really cool.
I have two. Sorry.
No, I was saying anything.
Oh, I have two. Sorry.
That's fine.
It's been a long campaign.
It has been a long time.
My second place favourite moment was when I ran onto the lava to try and pick up a phoenix egg, and then you were like, it's 10 foot across.
Standing again, it's hot, oh god.
It was a moment where I realised what I was doing and went, I think you've misunderstood the size of a phoenix egg. But you'd already done it, so it was, I should have thought this through, really. And then David as Copper following you and going, nope, melting, not good.
It was.
Lava.
There were a lot of unconscious people. Well, and then I took off my necklace to give it to Copper to make him go re-conscious, and then I went unconscious again. It was just
Yes.
really bad.
The first
There
thing
was
they
a
do
lot
with
of
the
down
necklace,
and up.
Yeah.
And my favourite is the moment when Hellas revealed that Hellas was me, because you know that was
amazing.
yeah.
Did you know before that moment?
No.
The question we asked was, did you know before that moment? No.
No, I probably should have been able to work it out. Like, I wish that I was intelligent enough to have worked it out, and no.
No, it's not intelligent.
Don't do yourself down. It's not as if anyone else had.
I will honestly say it is a constant problem in my DMing that I will set things up and give a lot of hints and then lead into it. And then when the player goes, I'm still not getting it, me going, but I've laid so many hints. And
Yeah.
feeling a bit like,
Come on.
it should be, I think it's a weird feeling. It's a feeling in a DM of, I think I've made this obvious, and all the players going, nope, nope, not at all, nope, just playing a game and haven't read that bit. Nope, not got it. And I always find that fascinating.
But you're often thinking about different things.
Yes.
And like your brain is working on different problems, whereas your brain is thinking more in the macro. We're often more in the micro.
That's true.
That's
So
very true.
it's
We live.
yeah.
Any other favourite moments?
No, do yours.
I also too. I truly enjoyed Speaker and Waywocket's wild night out. Full credit to Chaz for that, because it could not have happened without having him on this side of the table with me, and just having two characters who just 100% believe everything.
Yeah.
And of course that's a spy. And of course that everything is awful and terrible and just leading to the uprising in the kitchens and, and just the most ridiculous, ludicrous fun that I think I've ever had in a D&D game, which was brilliant. And then from that didn't involve me, but also kind of did, was when Promethean attacked the Order. Because I was sitting in the audience and we were going to discuss about saying like, I want to do this god, he's called Promethean, but then that to be like such a big plot point was a just a really lovely way to kind of feel connected to the story, even though at the time I just lost my character.
Lovely.
That was
and,
intentional.
yeah.
Really nice.
That was very intentional.
So then my two. Yeah, that was great too, Darren.
Cool.
Yeah. No, to be honest, actually, coming in a close third is Colwyn's Saving Day. And I was texting Tom from the audience at the time, being like, save my fucking cow or I'm dumping you. Mere fucking thing.
As there was a mention of it. I'm going to come back to this question because I know people have more, but I think it's only fair to bring this one in, which is from Tom. Hey, Tom. Enjoy your cave. Enjoy your cave.
It's so weird when you say it without context.
Oh, Tom is currently living in a cave in Spain. I don't really know why.
It stays mainly on the plane.
He's in a cave doing writing. I see.
It worked for Byron.
Cave writing.
Oh, of course, on a writer's retreat. That's right. Yeah.
Byron didn't write a cave.
Oh, there we go.
About caves.
Did they all die in the rocks fall on the base, or are their offspring members of the Order forever MIA?
Ooh.
I think it's only fair to be a bit clearer about this because at the time we didn't want to be. We had some players leave the game about halfway through for various reasons, and it was a shame. These things happen. I did not want to give the impression that they had just died off screen and that was the last we saw of them. It was more an attempt to go, something large has happened, we have no reference to where they were during that encounter, so they are no longer part of the story. Was very much the intention. I also don't believe in bringing a character where the player is not present back into the game unless it's been previously discussed and talked through and something's been worked out that's happy for everybody, and we haven't had the opportunity to in some cases, so I decided to leave it. All of them provided wonderful character moments and were incredibly enjoyable to play with, and we're looking forward to playing with some of them again very soon, so I'm very pleased that the cast and crew managed to work through that and bring in new players in a way that felt very comfortable and easy, and certainly made my life a hell of a lot easier. Thank you for that. More favourite moments?
Well, there was a time when we were.
And can?
It was in the Mantis episode, and we were fighting a guy who could go invisible, and I realised I could fire a chromatic orb at him. I think I casted like a 4th level chromatic orb or something.
Yes.
And was like, but he's invisible,
Yes.
so I was rolling with disadvantage.
Yes.
And they were invisible in fog. And he wasn't invisible, he was in fog.
God, yes.
And you said, well,
Yes.
it's disadvantage, and I went, ah. And I said, watch me waste the 20. And then I rolled 2 at once, and rolled two
nat
natural
20s.
Yes, I do remember
Which
Yes.
is actually one of the highlights of my adult
You
life.
left,
Let alone-
left the room.
I left the room. I shouted at my father who was watching the stream, Dad, get me an Uber, I'm coming home. Leaving instantly.
You left that before it happened.
He just come back.
We can read.
came-
I remember coming back and everyone was losing their shit.
No.
What happened?
Yeah, that.
I should point out all of these favourite moments are available online. Their recordings are on our YouTube channel. I'll go through that at the end. Yes.
But genuinely, yeah, that was obviously.
Oh, dice coming out your way in a ridiculous way is always amazing. You also solved universe with that 20.
Yeah.
I
Didn't
did do that.
you? Yeah.
I did. No, the dice did that. That was another, yeah.
It was a nat 20, then a 19, then an 18, like it just stayed there.
It was huge, but Cogwyn has terrible stats, as we mentioned. He's very intelligent and nothing else. And actually, he's extremely lucky. I think whoever's up there likes him because he should have died many times, and he barely even went down. So yeah, he really did get very lucky rolls, and a lot of them were like working out what's going on long before he gets fireballed to death. So yes, that was definitely my favourite.
Wait, that's a point that I've not really told all of you before, any of you before actually. Every single encounter I designed was leveled way too high for you.
I mean,
Wow.
I feel like we
thought
could
we
sense
knew.
that.
Yeah,
But there was a purpose.
Giant mantis.
But there was a purposeful design choice to that, which I'm going to come to in later in a bit. But I wanted this universe to be terrifying. I want it to be the kind of thing where whenever you encounter something, it's new, it's weird, and it's probably going to kill you. And this idea that any time you encountered anything, that it could just at the drop of a hat, you're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it did.
It did for you, yeah, absolutely.
The first year of the game, actually, I think I kind of, as we entered what felt like a sort of final act, I felt a little bit safer, but not really.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the first year, I was genuinely each time I was like, "Could be Cogwyn's last night, guys. Come
Get
on,
ready.
down,
Someone's gonna die."
See him go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was intentional. I wanted the kind of campaign where, because cosmic campaigns often have this, you turn up in this incredible location, it gets destroyed, and then some kobolds attack you. Like it's sort of, it's still D&D. Like we're still doing the D&D thing, which we are, and I'm not saying that we're not, and I do like the D&D thing. But I love the idea we get into like a situation where there's a god summoning another god inside the temple to another god. The whole world is being destroyed in there. By the way, you're also there too, and you're trying to stop it. Good luck, off we go. Like that's
It
I
also
like that.
it also stops the problem of like characters' previous knowledge, if you see what I mean. If
Yes.
if no one's come across this before, then whatever the
Exactly.
character's reactions is then and there is like, well, that's totally true. It's not like you would know it, because particularly if it's like, oh, some kobolds attack, it's like, I've done this hundreds of times. You should just be able to dispatch them.
Yes.
Whereas what you're doing is like actually creating something which makes everyone go, okay, hang on, I've got to think about this. How is
Yeah.
this actually going to work? Which is the most interesting way of doing it.
That hag fight, which is definitely my favourite set piece of the
Thank
campaign, was when we had the hag fight where we couldn't look at them.
Medusa
So they're
first. They weren't hags, they were
very-
Medusas.
Sorry, Medusas.
There were
Oh,
3
the
different
charm
flavourings of
Medusas.
Medusas.
Wow.
And you could
So
Abby's first session.
at the in the taxi on the way home from that fight, Chris went, "Oh yeah, I set that one up because you've got a Medusa tattooed on you."
Emma, would you like to describe the various tattoos that you have?
No.
Because you have a cat.
Yeah, what's that got to do with this?
Are they in every? Yeah.
There's been quite a lot of.
How many cats have been in this game?
That's true.
Lots.
Yes.
I've got 2 with me as I go and become Dr. Cogwheel.
Precisely. You have Medusa.
Yeah, I do have a Medusa.
You have a fish.
Ah, nice.
And you got a cockerel tattoo before you knew. Before you knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely ruined that tattoo for me. That every time you see it, you're going to be like, oh, fuck.
It's on the back of their calf. It's hard to see.
I can't.
That is intentional as well. I like doing things like that. Just my little fun. I'm cruel. I can't help it.
And Vic has got all of the dice you need for D&D tattooed on her back. And funnily enough, in every game.
Right there.
I like to throw in a few things myself.
Well, it's hard to bring my own tattoos, and they're quite, specific.
Didn't need to read Beholder in every single episode.
Or Calvin and Hobbes.
Be here for that.
Yeah. Can we do
Or
a
the
slate? A slate?
Gondor.
I feel like that's probably copyrighted.
But that
Redacted.
Just as a shout out to all my DM homies out there. That's actually quite something I'd recommend. Not the put people's tattoos into your game, but just as a set piece for a fight. Medusa is obviously a great fun, but something you can't look at, something where you have to get certain players to shout out instructions. Because that was the most fun I've had as Cogwheel actually, was being up above everybody, out of range of the effect of them, and having to shout directions and say, "They're behind you, hit them now." That was a really fun thing. Throw that at your players.
that
Make
was
some of
really
them
good.
blind. Yeah. Really good.
Any more favourite? Some of you haven't had a chance to speak yet. It's just you guys.
One of the ones that Will has really stuck out for me was literally in the first one that I played in, like the finding Belmar in the nightmare, like failing to get her out and then overcoming it and getting her out, and like everything that was happening around that was like, I was like this far from crying the whole way through it, like, which is a big move for me all the time. But, and then the fight in the temple, like, was like just awful, but such a huge moment in my mind. I think like it's everything about that, the way that it had all been set up, like it would have been impossible even before you gave up all your powers right at the beginning. And it was just the sort of thing that was just, there was that moment where I was sitting there and going, I'm going to have to let this happen. Everyone is saying, we have to move, we have to let the cockerel do it. And I was like, wait, I'm just gonna, like, I can't just let this go, and just tried suggestion, and like it worked. And
That's true.
And it's those little plays of the dice that just.
Well, that episode in particular was designed entirely around the concept of loss. Entirely around the concept of failure. It was intentional.
How appropriate.
You didn't tell me you were going to do that. I started that off. You went, I'm going to challenge my god. I went, oh god.
He had it
He's
coming.
already overpowered as fuck. Oh god. But it worked as part of the context. It worked significantly. And I mean, that was a gift to me. I had no idea you were going to do it, and it just made so much sense to fit that into it. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Can I add one more? Sorry.
Of course. Yeah,
Not something that happened on stream, but the Sunday to the Tuesday before the final fight, the amount of messengers that Tom and I sent each other planning tactics for the fight.
You both kept asking me oblique questions about stat blocks.
Yeah. Would he be vulnerable to that? Like, obviously not on a meta level. Just theoretically.
Just and then on Tuesday morning, I had this like brainwave about the cockerel, and I sent this message saying like, "Do you think this might work?"
I said yes.
And we changed the entire plan. On Tuesday, I literally went. I was at work. I sat at my desk. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go make a cup of coffee so that I can text Tom."
Professionalism is the watchword.
I hope nobody from work is watching.
I think work appreciates you have a life outside of it, surely.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one final question from Tom, which I'm going to do as a sort of end piece to talk a bit about some of the writing process, but I'm going to hand over to the audience first if anything they particularly want to ask anyone at the table.
I guess I'm asking you,
Sure.
given that the person
I will recite this back in a second, stream audience.
not here. At what point did people know, / whose idea was it that copper was going to be a device for eating God?
At what point did people know / did I reveal that copper was going to be a device for eating a god? Okay, this is a real lore deep dive. When we first conceived of copper, David gave me a very specific context for why copper had the bodies of various cultists in it. And I was fascinated by his idea because it was wonderful. It was just a lovely set-piece concept of a character with as many characters in this hulking suit of armour before Warforged were available to play, so we had to completely write a new race to make this a playable character. And we had all of these lovely ideas around how it was going to fit together and what it was going to be. At which point, when we were writing the Edinburgh game for last year?
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to build in slightly that it was an origin story for Omen. Because there are ideas about how the order was, and I thought, well, I'd love to explore a little bit how that came to be and why it is what it is. While also it being a prequel and we have to, fit into the story that already exists, but we'll make it work. And as part of that game, which included a fight that happened forwards and backwards in time at the same time.
That was amazing.
So we were trying out various concepts of what we could do and how we could make the game structure work in our favour, and it did remarkably. I have no idea how it did. The part of that was going, the copper construct and the cultists are different at that point. They're separate. How did they end up inside it? And also, why have they got a suit of armour they're all going to live inside? What is the context for that? What is the idea behind that? And the notion that you would create a suit of armour to house something, because it is in many ways a prison, as well as it is a protection. What would you want to house inside? Is it for people? Is it for one person? Is it potentially a walking prison cell? All those different ideas bounced around, and I didn't define it too specifically. I left it very open with David, and then when we actually played the game in Edinburgh, I left it very open as well. And then as part of the game in Edinburgh, it became very clear that this suit had been designed for these cultists to live in, to apotheose and become one with their god, but also could contain a multitude of souls. And that stuck in the back of my head. If it can contain a multitude of souls, surely it can contain the soul of a god. Surely that is something that you could do. And it ties in with a larger context of gods in this universe, which I'll get to in a sec. So then I floated it past David going, would this be a problem for you? Very vaguely. And David went, no! Goodness, David. And I ran with it from there. And then when the final battle came around, I built that in as part of the context of it. But no, it wasn't pre-planned, not at all. That was something that came up as part of gameplay and came up as little hints. And I thought, I'm going to play on all these hints and make it a story arc and make it a point.
Yeah, unlike with the Hellish Reveal, that was something that, like, as it was about to happen, I feel like at least a couple of people
Yeah. Again, it's a point I made earlier. As it was about to happen, people in the audience realised that there was a reaction from the audience going, oh, I see, that was planned all along. I do quite strongly believe that a big part of DMing is making it appear like something's been planned all along when it hasn't. Spinning that plate, going, of course it was always planned, didn't you think it was always planned? And then also going, yep, now it looks like it was always planned. And that's...
It's law now.
It's law now, exactly, it's canon. And I think part of the joy of DMing is being able to, trick is a strong word, convince people that this was always the case, when it wasn't. Absolutely not.
You can dress it that way, or you can dress it as collaborative world building as well. It's something
absolutely.
that
On that note, actually, I have a question for you.
Yes, go.
Yeah.
Which was when we first, the idea of Hellas first got introduced, and she was sort of being presented as sort of just like a positive thing, and because I was playing a character that was a cantankerous old bastard, just way more decided she didn't like this at all. Was at that point, had you kind of decided that Hellas was actually not a good guy? Or was it something that evolved out of like what grew to be a kind of mutual distrust?
In Lovecraftian mythos, there are elder evils who are obsessed with creation, and Hellas is based on one of those. I never had the intention of going, here is the good, here is the bad, you fight for the good, because also that kind of black and white good evil storytelling I find incredibly tedious.
That's fair.
I didn't want to necessarily go, Hellas is terrible and Cthulhu is terrible. I definitely wanted Cthulhu is terrible and that's your target and that's the sort of end game and the goal, and Hellas is probably not great. And then the more time was spent talking about Hellas and engaging with, and Charles' connection to Hellas being established and locked in, me going, Hellas is not great at all. If anything, they are two sides of the same terrible coin, and I wanted to play up to that idea as well because I like it. It's a good trope.
And what was really lovely is the thing of being presented a choice at the end, and it's kind of like, well, it's one of these two things. It's like, but they're both awful, and that was perfect in as much as it meant that suddenly we had to go, right, siding with someone isn't going to work.
I mean, there you're talking about my favourite moment. My favourite moment, bar all, is when I spent 3 hours in Hellas's voice convincing all of you this was the right thing to do. You seem to be going with it, and I went inside going, I think I've hoodwinked my entire cast. I feel bad about this, but also, well, that's what they get. And then everyone's suddenly going, nope. And me going, oh, I can't smile and be happy, but I'm overjoyed that you've
I would
seen...
also say that I was never on board with Hellas.
No, you were not. You were definitely not. Other people were.
I put a whole character on not being on board with Hellas.
But I think that was brilliant
Bullshit.
because none of us, like, we didn't have any conversations where we built towards that moment. Like, none of us had a conversation where we're like, oh, so we're not going to do it. Like, that happened
Just
live.
because it was after the break,
I feel
wasn't
like I
it?
said
So it
like
could have
6 or
been.
7 times.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. No one listens to the councilman.
But there's also a thing.
No.
There's also a thing that I think was different
government.
in this game, which much for the better, is that it's a very easy thing to do in a D&D game. Is going like, we're all doing this, right? But whereas what everyone was doing, specifically in that bit, was everyone was role playing. And so all of the inner thought stuff, which is the stuff where you go, oh, well, everyone's on side, right? It doesn't happen, and it means that you have to react off people and actually try and read them like you do in a real world situation, which was mental.
I'm reminded of a home game where you've been a refugee on the run for, years now. Because your party keeps doing that, exactly that.
Oh, okay.
But I think some of that does come through the bonds that we've built as characters. Like, I think, and I apologise for focusing on it here, but particularly the bond that we built as Coglin and Char, like as kind of two very strong colleagues in a way, is such a foundation to build off that having that as a base means that you can do that and build on it.
It's very good, and it's actually very easy for everyone else to do, again, to like do sort of recommendations for home games, if you're trying to shake things up, you haven't done it before. You could almost start with forgetting the two different characters and just what the characters are, and just look at the classes and be like, well, actually, a wizard needs a rogue to do an awful lot of things a wizard can't do, and obviously a rogue needs a wizard to know things that a rogue may not know and think about, and like, spells and things. And just growing from there, we had the very savvy, shall we say, swashbuckler rogue, who could handle an awful lot of things that Coglin couldn't, but one that didn't see the big picture, the entire, didn't have the libraries of the universe ingrained in their eyelids like Coglin did. So between them, they made a bit of a team and came to respect that. And it became a really nice character thing, but also actually gameplay-wise, it's quite fun to be like, right, this is your thing, I'm going to set you up to do your thing, and you say,
One thing I'll regret is not having a scene with Coglin and Kithra in the Book of Answers.
The Book of Answers.
Oh,
yeah. That's a shame.
Oh, yes.
Was the music correct though? Did you have it ready?
No.
Oh.
No idea what was going on in the one section I was around for that.
Oh, yeah.
The Book of Answers was a magic
Always
item.
being in the Book of Answers.
But it was.
Thomas Calder,
Let's
excited.
be like,
But it came
Being a
from.
pirate, Coglin's traversed multiverse in the multiverse.
Yeah.
They'll find each
There'll
other
be a
again.
crossover.
But it came from Chaz, like, just seizing on something and being like,
True.
right, I can take this and make it funny. And it was just fucking wonderful.
That's
fair.
Yeah.
That's true. The Book of Answers was initially conceived as being a bit silly. I wanted it to be something that was fun, useful, but also a bit silly. But then the fact that we had a player who wasn't you, another player go, I want to join in on this and just like drive it, it became this ludicrous thing. That music just haunts my dreams. It's just always there.
Sorry, I was just because like.
Did you miss it?
It's only appeared once this. You can be.
I think it's appeared
I think
twice.
it's
Okay.
twice.
It wasn't like a regular
But I
thing.
think
No,
it's
not in the same way, not at all.
It is only twice.
It was literally in the first.
Very enjoyed the first time, yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to leap onto a question from Tom here, actually, speaking of Tom, because it's a question for me, and I want to talk about this briefly before we get to some final questions and tie up. Can you talk a little about previous loops and what happened previously with the PCs who weren't in those loops? No. I can't, because it wasn't planned. It was planned. I need to be clear on this. I didn't sit down and go, all of these characters exist in previous loops and exist in a previous looping setup that works it all out. I came to the entire campaign concept and the idea way of doing this from a concept called samsara, which is an idea of rebirth, regrowth, reconciliation. Things cycle, things turn, things move over. And I wanted a campaign that played with the idea of cycle. And I wanted a campaign that played with the idea of what character cycle and what plot cycle and also what narrative cycle are, which is very meta-conceptual, which is why the campaign was meta-conceptual. Any trope I built into the campaign, I made a very strong effort to make a version of it that was not reflective of anything that we would necessarily look at as common cyclical nature discussion about it. Like the Christmas one wasn't about the jollity of Christmas, it was about the overconsumption of Christmas. The Feywild episode we had wasn't about the glory of this place where chaos reigns, you can do whatever you want. It was about chaos going wrong. It was intentional. I wanted a campaign that took all of these quite classic D&D or life mythological concepts and went, there is a dark side to this, there is another side to this, there is a way of looking at this that is not your basic run-of-the-mill line through. And I wanted this contextual example of a universe gone wrong, so I wanted this contextual example of a universe going through a cycle that wasn't necessarily the most positive one it could be in. When players conceived their characters and conceived of this story and conceived it all together, I realised they'd been archetypes. People do make archetypes. It's a very common character trait to make an archetype. The, silent
Deadly
gunslinger is a very classic trope. The knowledge cleric who knows more about the universe but no one listens to is a very classic trope. Sid's original character, the Jekyll and Hyde scenario, and that was almost obvious, I believe, but in a way that he found a way of doing that was very fascinating story-wise. Your rogue who knows nothing of their past but turns out to be a god reborn. None of these are things that I pulled out of my ass. These are all stories that exist. And they're all stories that interlock. And finding a role you would all have played within creating the world that created that interlock was a very big part of why I wanted all this to fit together. So can I say what characters are doing in previous cycles? No. But were the archetypes there represented present in each one? Fundamentally, yes. That's how I believe stories are told. And I wanted to tell that story in that way here.
Was Cogwin always rebuilding it?
Yes.
Because that was the one that was said at table. Was that he always ends up there going, oh, I'll do it again.
Yes.
Cool.
It wasn't so much Cogwin's always rebuilding everything, but there is the Matrix kind of destroys it a bit by having the architect be this figure sitting in a room with 1,000 televisions. Yeah. But the idea of, the blind clockmaker, God in the machine, there is very rarely a divine, August, the beginning spark, the origin point, that is also the same thing as the person that designs it. It's often, I'm the origin point and I'm the person who makes it right. That's a very common trope set when it comes to, the idea of God and the idea of creation. And I really wanted the idea of having, if I've got a brilliant techno magician, are they potentially the person who made the Nexus? I mean, that seems a very grandiose statement when they could be the person who made everything. But also, why define it too locked in now? I have these archetypes, and if they do decide to make a cyclical loop story, and if it does work in that way, I can feed back into it, which you all did. And I felt
it feels to me like it's much more interesting if the creator of the universe isn't all-knowing and all-powerful, because then they don't know what they're doing. And actually, so therefore, a universe which by its very nature should be random, is random, because the person who's creating it has no idea what they're doing. And therefore, but that's what I mean. Like, as in the idea that there is an intelligent design behind everything is one that is very seductive to people, because it means that there is a reason for everything.
Yeah.
But in this world, and it's a much better world for it, I think there wasn't the thing, because it was a creation of a cycle that's that kind of thing.
Well, this is also the idea behind something like Samsara.
Mm.
Samsara gets used in it as a context problem for how to talk about a universe where things are cyclical, where death is not the end, it is the start of rebirth, where the process is always a cycle, nothing ever ends, it just continues.
Yeah.
There's a particularly interesting concept of this when you think about video games, because in a video game context, you don't die. You
You just start again.
When your character fails, you get to go back and start again, and you are creating a cyclical samsaran process of, I've now learned how to complete this bit better. It's trying to find an element of that and bring it into a D&D game as well.
Mm.
But then again, I do tend to write D&D games and run D&D games in quite big context terms.
Which is a very good thing.
Or you just put it on casual and like blitz do it like a badass.
I said how I run them, Vic, not how you run them.
Story only mode. Give me the cutscenes.
Any more questions from the audience for us? Anything there? No? Anyone have any more questions for each other?
Right?
Yeah?
How much, once you found out that you were a god, Emma, did you feel like you had a responsibility to the universe, or was it still only you had a responsibility to yourself? Like your character, I mean.
As in, like, for the ending?
For the whole thing, it was, because I've never...
Never been a god.
Most of the characters that I make up tend to be peripherals, if you see what I mean. It's like they can take themselves out of the plot and put themselves back in. Because of what you were, it felt like you were that there was plot to be had if you wanted it, and I wondered if it was a choice to or not to.
From the point when I found out that Hellas was me, that was pretty much the start of the end game.
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
That makes sense.
So pretty much the same as always. Like, I'd always felt some responsibility for being quite strategic, like in combat. And then, as I was saying to you earlier, I knew how if nobody interfered with the necklace or changed what had happened to me during their ending, because you all had quite a lot of power over where I ended up. In the taxi on the way home from The Last Omen, I said to Chris exactly what I wanted to do at the end of this.
Wow. Yeah.
I knew exactly how I wanted to end it.
Which is the utter joy for me as well, you know that. It means that every single seed I placed, you not only picked up, but then also worked out an ending that fit entirely into the concept I was working with from the first word go.
That's
which
beautiful.
is just incredible, and I don't know how you did it.
Guess I'm a god.
Well, yeah,
But I guess that I felt more responsibility to the story.
Yeah.
Rather than to the world itself.
Well, that's because I guess that's what I was asking. Because the
I
thing
was
is,
more worried that Tom was going to hate me than anything.
right.
I did not hate it. I would have maybe had a problem with the Cogwin that we had in this world, looping back in and being trapped in doing it all again. As funny as that would have been.
I wouldn't have done that to you.
No, and you guys would have asked me if I wanted to do that. But no, I think it's a really nice idea, really beautiful idea. And it was, and for my character, we did talk ages ago. In fact, our Christmas episode touched on Cogwin not really knowing who his parents were and could not being able to picture them because and it turned out there was a hint that they were manufactured just like he was. It's like, oh, hang on, did he really have them? And it's like an implanted memory. And now we got confirmation that at least in this loop around, Cogwin is just willed into existence when creation needs. Well, I mean, he's like a scalpel for creation. It's like creation can just go trees and this and it's like actually I need to build something. Let's have a tool that I can use to do that.
In my mind, it was kind of because she was lonely as well.
Yeah, which of course adds to, when this loop round becomes it's like actually there's this guy I know who's good at this and I like him, so let's bring him in. Yeah, no, there's no way I was going to dislike that. It was really nice. It was really nice.
Agreed.
Any more for any more? No.
I kind of know the answer to this one, but like similarly to looping, Cogwyn turning out to having built the Nexus, I really liked that.
Mhm.
And of course the fact that because of course it makes so much sense because the Nexus is really Cogwyn's aesthetic. But Cogwyn's aesthetic in the real world is that way because that was one of the original style points we had, and we knew we were going to be based on like a clockwork base. So I want to know whether you decided like right there and then that Cogwyn would turn out to have that, or whether you were like, oh, we can just do this now, can't we? Even though this created this, we can just go and put it like that. It was that one, wasn't it? Remember, you've already revealed that you like to pretend sometimes there was a big plan, so we might not even...
Oh, I do. Yeah, because the more I do that, the more safe you feel as well as players. I think I don't think that I necessarily, when you made Cogwyn, went, cool, Cogwyn built the thing that he's based on, because that's too meta-narrative for me anyway. But then when in the way you started playing him, it became clear that you could have done. And then that was enough for me to go, you may have done, let's see what happens in the plot. And then as you started to lean heavily into the I may have made the whole universe argument I laid in front, and you went definitely, without knowing that you had, it was just all contextual. Me going, well, if you make the whole universe, you made the Nexus as well. It's part of it. If anything, it's a purer representation of you than any other part of it, which is probably why you live there.
Yeah.
Or is it? Or did you always live there? And I didn't want to go, yep, done. It was more of a, if you're leaning into the skid that I've started this car on, then I'm very happy to let you ride it out as far as you need to, and that's part of the joy of creating that.
Yes, and it makes for... I guess that's just the fun point. Is not even a question really, but just to flag up the thing you said there. You, from a DM's perspective, you're quite right that it's valuable to be able to act like something was always part of the plan, or like something's come into place, and even if you're not having high concept things like time travel and loops and stuff. But what's really nice about it from a player's perspective is that you can give your player something which is technically speaking impossible without that level of lying, to be frank. But that's a level of misdirection, because the players aren't part of a tightly plotted 2.5-hour movie script, in which there can be something in scene one that comes back. But that you can totally, if you're smart enough, and if you work with your team and you really know each other really well and you understand each other's rhythms and the things they're saying and you pay attention, you can go, that little thing you mentioned back in our very first session, turns out that was a really big deal all along. And even if we kind of know it can't have been all along, the story now means that it was that all along. So
I would say though that was like every player has things that you can admire about them. Like everyone has something where you go, this person's fantastic at this. That you are very, very fucking good at leaning into things that people present to you. Like that. I would say that was something that was an especially good thing that you're very good at doing. You're very good at picking up on things that are presented to you and going, oh, all right, let's fucking, and just locking the wheel and riding the skid out. I would say that.
Agreed.
That is something you're especially good at doing.
That's lovely to hear, because that's literally something I try to do. So
and you do it really well.
It shows. It tells very well.
Thank you.
I do like playing with players, and you all exemplify this, but it is also a general point. I do love playing with players where I'll, flick a marble towards you, and you'll just run with it, and then I'll go. Start writing, because it solves that problem. It solves that feeling of this is all improvised, and it just how does it all fit together? And I know that you're all people who, when I put something down, you'll fucking pick it up. And I think that's one of the most valuable things you can be as a player, and all the valuable things you can offer as a DM. It's a lovely note to end it.
I have a final question.
Okay.
Y'all have fun?
Yeah. I have kind of a plot one. So we established that by punching portals through the dream, you were destroying the dream.
Yeah.
And then you said, what a good thing to do is, you can make portals through the
Don't
universe.
make us feel bad, shush.
No, but let's hear the question.
Go on.
Are you now destabilizing the universe by punching holes through it? There was a whole arc where it was like, punching. I built my whole character around this.
Yeah.
You just said Tom was really good at leaning into things he was given.
Absolutely. But
that would be a real shame if that happened, because there's nobody in existence who could possibly ever fix the universe. I do clean up my messes.
I mean, stay tuned for future Adventures Wanted, guys.
There is a narrative Cthulhu arc I am tying up with this show.
Cogwin home.
Although, to be fair, I do like the idea that Cogwin breaking through meta-narrative means that Cogwin could literally appear there right now.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the special effects to make that happen.
If you'd paid like a cosplayer to come in,
Oh my god.
I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone would have done.
But a missed opportunity around.
Yeah, it was
To be fair, Promethean did say that he had learned how to go around things rather than through them. So
yeah.
I actually also want to say this. It's Promethean. It is Promethean.
Yeah, but it's also Cthulhu, so
I created the character of Promethean. It's fucking Promethean. Get it together, guys.
Everything breaks down.
Yes.
I have one more question.
Oh, for God's sake, fine!
It's for Chloe.
Ah.
Oh.
The power behind the throne.
Do you?
Come to the mic.
Two quick things for Chloe, really.
Mm.
One is firstly, thank you, Chloe, for.
I mean, that's not a question, Tom.
It's more of a comment, really. I'm a white man.
This is the kind of audience we like to have an Adventures Wanted.
However, are there any sound effects that you've not used, and are there any particular ones that you're quite sad you never got to use?
There was, I think there was one specific bagpipe one, but it was like a very... It wasn't the bagpipe one I used. Other than that, most things I would find an opportunity to use. Yeah, to be honest, it was just, after a while it became more about music rather than individual sound effects. I'm always sad that I can't do the whale one more. I think I got to use it once in this campaign, and that's just because the whale.
What the whale is.
Well, the whale is just me doing a whale and then adding a filter.
Okay, well that's a tease. Come on.
Is your campaign for starting entirely whale-based?
If you
That was
rearrange
someone-
the letters
sorry.
in Undergods, it spells whale.
that was someone asking if Chloe's campaign was entirely whale-based.
Adventurers Wanted, blowhole.
Whales.
Hentai all over again.
They have blowholes, guys.
This is premium.
Everything is a cycle. To be honest, there are probably, I'm going to guess there are about 4 Cogwin sound effects that I made that I never used. Because I had to have an entirely different Q lab for Cogwin.
So I did this.
Because of all the specialist whirrings
There are spells I
and
never used, yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, there are
Things I
spells
never
you never
actually
use.
did.
But yeah.
I don't need false life very much. But yeah, cool.
I think the only
Yes.
sound effect I saw was a cat that longed for death.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh
Cool.
yeah.
The only other thing was like, it was just sort of a more broader thing on just sort of you are the director of this show, and I was curious as to like how that really manifested kind of day by day, and like, you know, 'cause it's different to
Yeah. It's a weird one because it's not kind of like rehearsing with people in a room beforehand. I mean, Chris would always give me like a kind of précis of what the next session was going to be about. And so we'd have a few chats on that and about story and that kind of thing, though the story was still like Chris is, the writer, as much as there is a writer and there is a director and there are those kind of theatre-y roles. Kind of notes and stuff to players after the games, just thinking about like role play as performance and things like that. Though to be honest, a lot of this was, if I was the director, like it's a very weird kind of word, because definitely with Undergods, there's going to be a lot more that is about me as a director going, oh, I want some props in and I want to do this kind of thing and people are going to drink stuff. Whereas here, I'm not going to impose that on Chris. So yeah, I think it was about that, and I guess there are specific things that you don't really think of as directing things, but about having stuff relaxed and having lights up on the audience and those kind of general things about the atmosphere of the shows themselves.
You've mentioned Undergods a few times. People may not know what it is.
Undergods is a typo that became a campaign. What? I was trying to type underdogs and it came out as Undergods, and I went, that sounds like a cool concept. Let's do an entire year-long show around that.
This was meant to be Adventurers Wanted Neon. So a really different experience.
Yes,
Oh, maybe show.
for anyone who doesn't know what Undergods is this also segueing into the kind of end of show thing? Yeah. Undergods. Well, next month for October we have a adorable horror themed one shot, but it's going to be kind of like a self-contained thing. That's why I find it adorable. However, from November here at the Rosemary Branch, we're going to have a new monthly show which is called Undergods, which will be DM'd by me and featuring some people. We haven't officially announced that. I'm not ready to officially announce, but keep an eye out. So Undergods is following a small group of people descended from deities who, along with the standard D&D powers, have slightly weird, almost mutant-esque abilities. And they are all from the world of Nakara. Something very strange and dark and worrying is happening on Nakara, and they have to stop the bad thing. So it's a very kind of simple, quite classic structure, but that's just so it can be simple in one way and complex and convoluted and emotional and very weird in lots and lots of others. But think much more folksy, much more kind of a little bit of woo, palmistry, tarot reading, styles of storytelling, that kind of thing, folk stories and legends and lore, and slightly more kind of classic D&D vibes a tiny bit. And that's going to be here the first Tuesday of every month. Whilst I'm on that, we'll round up. So actually, we'll start off with plugs. Starting with Ed.
I am in a show called War of a World, the musical immersive experience. Please do come along and see that. I play 3 different characters. You may get to see me die, you may not.
Like this.
Yes, exactly. It's one of the things that happen. Otherwise, no, that's me done.
Do you want to say where you can buy tickets or where it is?
I have no idea. Is the answer.
We will add the link on Twitter. And
It is.
such like.
I know it's at the old Metal Exchange on Leadenhall Street. Beyond that, I know nothing.
Leadenhall Street.
Yes, well, exactly.
I'm a leather person. No, I
Award-winning.
I do leather work. If you want saddlery or shoes or anything along that line, I guess I do art now as well. Like if you want things done that are nice,
That are beautiful.
I
Yes.
can do them. Farouche leather work. I'm completely.
Don't
worry, all of this is going to get put up on Twitter
on
and
Instagram.
such, like, and Facebook.
Or find me on Twitter.
It's some cool stuff.
It's beautiful. Really.
You can find me on Twitter, where I tweet about mostly D&D. However, for this, I'm going to shout out Leo Dalton, who, before the start of the show, sent me a direct message where he sent me 3 media files of songs that he had written specifically for this show, 2 of them about Char and 1 about Cthulhu.
Nice.
So he is excellent, and you should follow him and go see things that he does.
Yes, I am currently involved in a immersive show experience over on. I mean, Ed is as well. So
No, but this is way better. Go to this one.
Well, Bridge Command. It
Yes.
takes its name from the fact that you and your friends, Emma's, come and had a fantastic time. You were saying had a fantastic time. Where you get to come and run the bridge of a starship with your friends. We are using basically we've taken a video game where there's various different stations around on different screens. That mean you can do everything from weapons to helm to engineering and so on. But crucially, we've got an entire set with full like smoke machine stuff happening, big blaring sound effects, and you really do feel like to a point that you're actually flying a starship with your friends. And one of you does get to be captain, and they don't have a screen; they just sit in a chair and tell everyone else what to do. Which is very
Make it
fun.
so.
Whatever you're picturing, it's way better.
It's really good.
And also it looks like we're having a general election soon, so please vote for the Labour Party. I'm just going to come out and say that.
Right.
But
Yes.
thank you. If you have an objection to that, please don't take it out on Adventurers Wanted. Come and find me on social media so that I have to block you instead. All right, thank you.
Absolutely register to vote as
Yes.
soon as you fucking
Yes.
can.
Yes,
This is
100%.
really incredibly
Really
important.
So, for the past 4 shows, I've had to say you have to wait because they're not out yet.
Yay!
And now you can see all the things I spent my last year working on. I've had to make a list. On Panorama, that's BBC One, you can watch Stacey Meets the ISIS Brides, which was where we sent Stacey Dooley into the camps in Syria, in Kurdish-controlled Syria, to meet the women from Western countries who basically married ISIS fighters. Something that really didn't get emphasised enough in the publicity of this is that like no one else got access like this. We just had Stacey Dooley wandering around the camps, which was just wild. I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and it's truly incredible access. You could also watch Inside the School Cuts Crisis, which is another Panorama, so also BBC One, which is about the funding cuts that happened specifically to primary schools and the effect that's having on education. You can watch How Not to Die on BBC iPlayer. There's 4 episodes, which is Rip Current, Avalanche, Balcony Fall, and
How not to die during.
It is what it said on the tin.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in one of these potentially dangerous things, it's what you should do.
So we've got Rip Current, Balcony Fall, Moped Crash, and Avalanche, and it's basically how to survive if you get caught in one of those life-threatening situations on holiday. They're all on BBC iPlayer, and the first 2, maybe 3 now are out on YouTube. And this Sunday, 11 p.m, you can watch Sex, Drugs and Murder, which is part of Channel 4 Dispatches season. That is about the chemsex drug GHB and the fact it is killing off gay men in levels that really aren't being recorded, but high levels. And the fact that it's still only Class C and what's being done about that. So that's technically 8 films that you can watch.
Marvelous.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and we're currently filming another one at the moment, so it's going to be great.
I'm really glad I
And they're
didn't go
all on
last.
iPlayer,
I feel
apart
like
from,
rather.
Sex, Drugs and Murder, which will be on 4D.
Cool. I'm going to do a quick rundown, very, very quick one of adventurous stuff coming up. We also have our monthly show Mixtape, which is a stream-only show, which is the last Wednesday of every month. This Wednesday we are playing Warrior Poet, which is an amazing game by Grant Howitt, where you combat through the medium of haiku. It's competitive haiku writing with epic battles. It's going to be amazing. Additionally, on the 29th, it's a Sunday of this month, we are doing an event with Improbable, a devoted and disgruntled event, where in the morning you play D&D, in the afternoon you talk with loads of people about theatre, performance, role play, gaming, etc. It's going to be amazing. If you want to come, you can book a ticket. Full day tickets are sold out, and we've already sold, it's a free event. I say sold.
Why are we inviting more people?
Because maybe we want more than 55 people to have to run one-shots for in the morning. Maybe. But just letting people know that we do that and that's happening. Additionally, if you want to support us, you can buy tickets for the next live shows that we have at Rosemary Branch. You can spread the word about us on social media. We're mainly at Adventurers Wanted. On Twitter, we're at Adventurers250. But you can find us on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Additionally, you can also donate on our website, or you can become a patron, where you can get live shows as playable modules, you can get special sneak peeks, you can get exclusive streams, you get free tickets to shows, all that kind of stuff. So that's patreon.com/Adventurers Wanted. And keep an eye on our social media, because we've got very, very cool things coming up. There'll be announcements about Undergods, other things, etc. Other than that, a thank you to our lovely audience. A thank you to the players to my left and right. A huge thank you to Chris as well. Am I going to have to come back there to press the stop button?
I get the last one.
I have to leave your seat.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I'm playing in Undergods.
I kind of wanted to do it all as announcing everyone at once.
No, now you know. And I'm looking forward to that. And I will be DMing again on Adventurers channel in things we can't talk about yet. So, exciting stuff coming up for everyone. Thank you again, and thank you especially to the 5 of you. David is not here, and the 3 who played beforehand. We couldn't do it without you, and I couldn't do it without you.
And we can do it without you.
Mm.
Well, literally on a rules level, but also thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
It's been an incredible campaign.
Very
Thank you for everything you've
Really, really amazing.
And a big shout out and thank you to all of our viewers online. Thank you for watching. See you again soon.
Bye.
Thanks.